We often hear about ignorance, and the word which is translated as ignorance is avidya, which means not knowing. And this not knowing is expressed in terms of conviction in our beliefs. And there's one belief in particular that's mentioned here, which characterizes avidya, and that is that there exists a reality which is not Brahman or cosmic consciousness. So that's the underlying belief which characterizes avidya, that there's somehow not this absolute Brahman or cosmic consciousness. And when there is a certain knowledge that this is indeed Brahman, avidya ceases, and we've got vidya. Now, this certain knowledge isn't just an intellectual understanding. This knowledge has to be a realization, really. It's not a question of intellectually agreeing with this, but of realizing it yourself, realizing that this is indeed Brahman. Vasishta continued. Again and again I repeat all this, O Ram, for the sake of your spiritual awakening. The realization of the self does not happen without such repetition or spiritual practice. I think we could say the ongoing realization of the self. Initially, the realization is something which happens. It might happen as a result of spiritual practice, or it might not. It can just happen. You can have a realization. In either case, that realization will have to be consolidated by spiritual practice. I tend to suspect, though, that realization of the self is more likely to happen without spiritual practice, because spiritual practice can reinforce avidya. This ignorance, known as avidya or ajnana, has become dense by having been expressed and experienced by the senses in thousands of incarnations, within and outside this body. But self-knowledge is not within the reach of the senses. It arises when the senses and the mind, which is the sixth sense, cease. The mind is usually categorized as one of the senses. It's the sense organ of thought. It's how we perceive thoughts. Yes, spiritual practice can help reinforce some positive beliefs, but it's still reinforcing beliefs. And this is the problem with traditional yogic practice. It assumes certain factors like the body as being real, whereas self-knowledge transcends all these notions, and self-knowledge has to transcend spiritual notions as well. O Ram, live in this world firmly established in self-knowledge, even as King Janaka lives, having known what there is to be known. In his case, the truth is realized all the time, whether he is active or not, whether he is awake or not. Lord Vishnu incarnates in this world and takes on embodiment fully established in this self-knowledge. Even so, Lord Shiva remains established in self-knowledge, and Lord Brahma too is established in self-knowledge. Be established in self-knowledge, O Ram, as they are. So here the gods are being put in a slightly better light than they were a short while back in chapter 9, when Rama asked why even the gods like Vishnu and Shiva are part of ignorance or avidya. So we've got one of these counterbalancing things in the Yoga Vasishta, which I think gives us the idea that there are different points of view going on here. The usual story is that Brahma and the other gods don't usually become fully enlightened until the end of the world cycle, but here they're being given the benefit of being fully enlightened. Traditionally, it's actually very difficult for a god to be enlightened because they're dwelling in such a positive state that they don't experience the sorrow that gives rise to dispassion. There will be people on this planet who are the equivalent of gods, not in the sense that they're wealthy and that they have a lot of things, but they are supremely contented people. They have a very good sense, a very positive sense of being, and they might not see any need, or they might find the teachings of Yoga Vasishta and other spiritual teachings to be completely unnecessary, to have no appeal whatsoever, because of this stress on the pointlessness of conventional existence. So that they're living in a very positive state, but they'll have trouble appreciating the need to pursue any self-enquiry. And this is the nature of the gods. Ram asked, Lord, pray tell me, what is the nature of the self-knowledge in which all these great ones are established? Vasishta replied, Ram, you know this already, yet in order to make it abundantly clear, you are asking about it again. Whatever there is, and whatever appears to be the world jugglery, is but the pure Brahman, or the absolute consciousness, and naught else. Consciousness is Brahman, the world is Brahman, all the elements are Brahman. I am Brahman, my enemy is Brahman, my friends and relatives are Brahman. Brahman is the 3 periods of time, for all these are rooted in Brahman. So Brahman actually includes all the notions which take us away from realization of Brahman. Even as the ocean appears to be expanded on account of the waves, Brahman seems to be expanded on account of the infinite variety of substances. Brahman apprehends Brahman. Brahman experiences or enjoys Brahman. Brahman apprehending Brahman is what gives rise to the world appearance, or is what gives rise to self-realization. Brahman apprehending Brahman is the attention attending to itself. Brahman is made manifest in Brahman by the power of Brahman himself. Brahman is the form of my enemy who displeases me, who am Brahman. When such is the case, who does what to another?